Hey, what's up, everybody? Jason Swenk here, and I'm excited to have another really good episode, a really amazing guest who's going to talk about how did they position their agency as an outside marketing solution for companies coming in. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. All right, Vasa, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? How are you?
I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
My name is Vasa Martinez. I'm the founder and CEO of GrowthBuster, an outsourced marketing department. I'm also the CMO of Outer Isle, which is a food brand that creates cauliflower sandwich thins and pizza crusts.
Very cool. And so, with the agency, how'd you get your start? Why'd you guys jump into this world?
Well, I found that I had some ideas that I wanted to see brought to life, and working as an employee wasn't the best way to do that. Um, so in the back half of 2017, I started consulting rather than being a full-time employee, and that turned into the beginning of 2018. I incorporated what became GrowthBuster, and started building from there.
Awesome. And talk about kind of why did you choose to kind of position, or why are you guys going after kind of the outsourced marketing department?
Um, so there's for me, it's nice to have a group of specialists and a group of generalists all on the same team. When we work with different brands, I'm typically running point on the account, so we never pass it off to an account manager that's just out of college or anything like that. So having that team behind me as support is the most helpful. Having the graphic designer or having an email marketer or a copywriter, rather than just focusing on being a paid agency or a social media marketing agency, just wasn't enough for me. And part of it was, I treat GB as a CPG company. We work mostly with CPG companies, food and beverage. And I was listening to a lot of our potential clients, what they wanted. And wherever we could, we slowly tacked on, those resources.
Good. And so, how do you position yourself different than all the other agencies out there?
Well, I don't really look at too many other agencies, to be honest. I focus on what we do and what we do best. My background is at Quest Nutrition, and creative and community was one of our main focuses in the marketing department. We also, that was my first stint in marketing. I left a previous industry, really enjoyed it, and we had our own creative department as well. So we never worked with any agencies. So I've kind of learned like the project management systems, all of the copywriting, everything as a generalist at first, and I went into content marketing for one of the arms. So that's kind of why we went in that direction, is simply because it's what I started with. It was nice to have, and I love it.
Very cool. And so, what are some things that really you guys do really well that you've figured out over the past couple of years of running the agency?
So we've always been known for our creative. We work with a couple awesome brands like Magic Spoon. In the past, we've worked with just some of the coolest CPG challenger brands out there. So we're definitely known for our creative. But early on, we used to be known for how quickly we can escalate social growth. We don't buy followers. We don't use bots. We don't do anything shady like that. So we would literally have bets with new clients that we would double their social within the first 4 months, 1 month onboarding, 3 month execution, and we won a lot of bets that way. Since then, everything's always changing on IG, Facebook, so we've really made adjustments and evolved along the way. So back then, community and creative, 100% we were known for. We still are, but since the pandemic, we really dove into our innovation department. And what that is basically acquisition and retention, with an emphasis on SMS.
So, when you would go to your clients and you would bet them, "Hey, we can double this," what were some of the things that you did that would help get more engagement, double their numbers, and all that?
I can think of one good example, and we're still currently with them 3 years later, and that's Outer Isle. They had 18,000 followers when we first started, and 93% of them were in Rio de Janeiro. Interesting part there is that Outer Isle doesn't ship to Rio de Janeiro, and we really had to displace those followers that cannot be buyers and bring in a lot of folks who could be buyers. So what we did was run our playbook on the content marketing, identifying what the RTBs are, or reasons to believe. For Outer Isle, it's low carb, gluten free, grain free bread that's delicious and easy. So, and it's versatile. You can use it for pretty much anything. So the goal of ours was trial. So our influencer funnel, we work on just constant trial. We call it targeted trial. And from there, we bring them down the funnel to 5 different ways to win. That's, sentiment. What do they think about the product? They hate it. Hey, thanks. We'll see you later. They love it. Well, what else can we do together? Can we send you more? Do you want to be an affiliate? Do you want to be activated for our next paid campaign and a retail rollout? Do you want to be an ambassador? Things like that. So the trial, like product and mouth, was 100% a main focus for us. Really honing in on what the messaging was at that time. It was a little bit different. We did a rebrand in 2019. And the messaging at that point was always focused on low carb, grain free, gluten free. That's what people care about. And we focused our influencer efforts there. People started seeing it. We started attracting the social proof, using that on the back end, using that in ads. The other component of that was brand partnerships. We worked with a lot of different low carb keto brands, grain free brands. And what we did was I think it was actually like 2 months that we doubled Outer Isles following from 18 to 36K. And when we looked at the displacement, where Rio de Janeiro was once 93%, it was now closer to 40, 50%. And at this point today, it's 93% US with 142,000 followers.
Oh wow, yeah. Not too long ago, or maybe this, I don't know, I keep losing track of time. 2 years ago, I had Facebook reach out and was like, "Hey, we're reaching out to influencers in the space that we want to grow your account." I was like, "Sure, you can grow it." And the next thing I knew, I had like 40,000 more whatever likes on Facebook. And then I started looking
Mm-hmm.
at the names and I'm like, what is going on? It was all like, I couldn't even pronounce the names and I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
believe Facebook would do something like that. And so, yeah, that kind of irked me. I really like your strategy of how you've grown it.
Yeah, the tough part about that too, and is what stakeholders don't realize, and we don't work with brands that buy followers or bought followers. We've done it in the past. We've literally switched their accounts and started fresh. What they don't realize is that what to them is a vanity metric, like, oh, investors need to see 100,000 followers, or my peers need to see 100,000 followers and know I'm legit. When you start passing, your accounts off to a paid agency, and they believe that these are real, there's not much for them to work with. But on top of that, let's just say that they make a lookalike audience for engagers, and you just bought engagement. They're making a lookalike audience of people that are ghosts that just don't exist. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that people don't realize. When you tell them, hey, you're wasting money and this is why, then they're like, oh, buying followers isn't that cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I'm still trying to. I'm so complex at what Facebook did. I'm sure they probably outsourced it to someone to do that. But I kind of laugh. I kind of leave it because everybody kind of uses me as the lookalike audience. I'm like, oh, you're going to target to the wrong people,
Yeah.
suckers.
Yeah. That's very true.
Awesome. Well, what's your guys' North Star? Like, what really kind of drives the agency, for getting to the next level?
Yeah, so our North Star is being human first, business second. Always has been, always will be. There's a lot of times in my history where my career where ethics weren't the number one thing I've come across. So for me, I learned a lot about how to be from learning and watching people and seeing how I don't want to be. So that's how I run the agency. What our North Star is, it's not necessarily growth. Yeah, growth is nice. To be a $10 million agency instead of a 1.5 or 2 million. Yeah, that's great. But at what cost? Employee mental health is important to me. Like, we work 40-hour weeks. I never hit people up on the weekends. My signature literally says, hey, I work weird hours. If you see this at the time where you're not working, just reach out to me when you are working. Don't think about responding to it. So for me, the North Star is running a solvent business, working with some really cool brands, and not sacrificing employees' health as a result. I can tell you this: I didn't look like this when I first started GB, so I'm like the first-hand experience of what I don't want my employees to feel like or turn into. But at the end of the day, another North Star of ours is we don't work with brands that don't solve a problem. We've said no to a lot of brands. Yeah, we could have done so much more in revenue, but we love working with brands that are solving a problem for people. And that really starts, again, going back to my experience at Quest Nutrition. We solved a problem there, or not me personally, but it was solved before I got there, and that was creating a bar that was actually good for you. And we've turned down lucrative offers with brands where they just weren't as, we'll say, just their North Star was a bit
Oh,
skewed. There's
yeah.
ingredients in there that weren't very good. So that's our second North Star, is working with brands, helping brands grow that are really solving a food problem.
Now, how did you start off that way? Because a lot of times it's hard to, especially when you're getting started, of go or really kind of figure out who you actually want to go after, right? To gain that clarity. So, what were some things did you just take your past experiences, it sound like, and be like, I don't want to do this, and kind of process of elimination, figure out the North Star?
Well, yeah. So I working with a low carb company, and like my last role at that company was senior influencer marketing manager. So I had a lot of relationships, the influencer world, brands that were reaching out. Where once I left, there was another vegan low carb protein bar that reached out, consulted for them for a little bit. A low carb vegan chip reached out. So having the experience with the product, but also the influencers I would reach out to, couple that with being a one man show then, and also having just a really focused laser precision on, I'll help run, like social, and I'll run influencer. I'll put the content calendar together, and we'll grow your social. Those are really like the box that I put myself in as a consultant. As we've grown and as I've grown, I'm working more as like the outsourced CMO, whereas my team serves as the department. So how I worked with those brands was just, again, I picked and choose. There was, I think my first two brands were Proats, no cow, but they were called D's Naturals back then. Cave Shake, which is a keto shake, and they were all very second nature to me because Bus was working on all of those products at the time I was there.
Very cool. And when you started, obviously when you started, it was just you. So how'd you decide who to hire as you were growing?
Yeah, so I worked with a couple freelancers at the time. I brought on one of my other closest friends. He was freelancing and just helping me out with influencer, what we call influencer partnerships, organizing the influencer calendar. His name's Simon. But the first hire was my friend Danny, who I brought on as VP of growth. Again, he helped Halo Top really hit that next level as a unicorn. And that was a really intentional choice because I needed another me in the field. And he focused on he was previously an engineer before he got into marketing, so he has that engineer mind where he can really set the structure of things. And that was important to me because it was very complementary, but we also had similar skills because we literally sat next to each other at Quest. So that was the first hire. Once that happened, the next thing I brought on was a creative director. That maybe was a bit early, but we quickly started hiring in 2018. We brought on a retail marketing manager in 2019, which is different for an agency. You don't typically see those, but when we start working on our innovations tactics, manufacturing coupons, digital coupons, those sorts of things, it all helps. So bringing on that one anchor that could support me was the priority.
Yeah. I always, tell all the people I'm coaching of like, hey, you got to kind of hire based on the things that you're currently doing now that you don't want to do anymore,
Yeah,
rather than hire the things that you have no clue about. I'm like, no, no, no.
yeah,
You'll do that later on, but in
yes,
the very beginning, you need to replace yourself, not your exact twin, but you need to replace kind of those smaller things that
yeah,
you're doing that we all have to do when we're first starting out. So
yeah. A good place for me to be eventually that I'm working towards is really focusing on the finances, the personnel, some higher level strategy for some of our brands, but fully cognizant that eventually I should be the reason that the business kind of runs and stays afloat.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I always tell people, as you're building the business, you're in it, and then and you're going like the what and the how, and I'm like, no, no, no. All you have to do is be like, this is where we're going, and this is the who. Who's actually going to go do this? Who do I need to
Yeah,
hire? Um, and then that kind of transitions to working on the business, which then you have that freedom to do what you want because I can promise you this: we're not all about hustle, 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 hustle. It's like
yeah,
hustle, have fun, hustle, have fun, right? So,
yeah.
and a little bit more in between. So, well, this has all been a great. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
Mm, nothing I can think of.
Perfect. Well, what's the website people can go and check you out?
It's growthbuster.com, www.growthbuster.com. There's no S at the end. Dan Aykroyd and all those guys aren't part of the team. So it's growthbuster, singular, one word,
Okay.
.com.
Well, I was going to be like, hey, we need to create a really good theme song,
Yeah.
because before I mean, I guess while I was in the agency, I wanted to create an app that eventually turned into an iPhone app called Gold Vader. But the first name was called Chubby Busters, and we had a theme song that I would sing. We'd be like, when you're feeling fat and your pants don't fit, who are you going to call? Chubby Busters. But then we're like, no one's ever going to say we're going to be with Chubby Busters.
Yeah, that sounds like an agency I would own right now too.
Awesome. Well, go check out the website. And if you guys like this episode and you want to hear more of it, make sure you actually subscribe so you don't ever miss out on a new episode that we're pumping out all the time for you guys so you guys can scale faster. And also make sure you guys leave us comments or review the podcast. It will help us out and reach more people. And if you guys want to be surrounded by amazing agency owners on a consistent basis where we're constantly talking about what's the strategies working so you can scale your agency faster and not work all the time and have that freedom that you really want, make sure you guys go to digitalagencyelite.com. That is our exclusive mastermind. Go there now. And until next time, have a swank day.